My name is Lisa Martinez, and this is the story of how my mother-in-law's dream vacation took a shocking turn. People often underestimate those they deem unimportant, but sometimes, the ones they look down on have more power than they realize. I first met David Anderson while working as a barista to support myself through my master's program in business. Unlike the other wealthy customers who barely acknowledged me, David was different, kind, respectful, and never condescending. Our connection grew, and before long, we fell in love. I thought I had found my happily ever after. What I hadn't expected was the storm that came in the form of his mother, Eleanor. Eleanor Anderson wasn't just wealthy, she came from old money, the kind that scoffs at anything less than luxury. From our first encounter, she made it clear that someone like me, a coffee shop girl, had no place in her distinguished family. "Oh, David," she'd remark, pretending I wasn't standing right there. "Didn't the Rothschild girl just return from Paris? Still single, I believe." But David was unwavering in his love for me. Despite Eleanor's protests, we married in a small, intimate ceremony that she deemed utterly beneath the Anderson name. For 3 years, I endured her constant jabs, always delivered with a sugar-coated smile. "Lisa, darling, is that dress from a department store?" Or the ever-condescending, "How charming that you once served coffee, it must be wonderful not having to work anymore." What Eleanor failed to realize was that I hadn't just been brewing coffee, I had also been quietly investing in cryptocurrency since its early days. My portfolio had grown into a substantial fortune, easily rivaling that of the Andersons, but I preferred to keep my financial status private, choosing to reinvest my wealth rather than flaunt it. David knew, of course, and respected my choice to keep it under wraps. The final straw came when Eleanor planned the Anderson family's annual luxury getaway. Every year, she orchestrated an extravagant trip, not just for leisure, but as a way to showcase her influence and control. At a dinner held in her palatial estate, she announced her grand plan. "This year," she declared with self-satisfied glee, "I have outdone myself. I've secured the entire Royal Pearl Island resort for 2 weeks, exclusive beaches, personal chefs, private helicopter tours, only the finest for the Andersons." Gasps of admiration echoed around the table. Royal Pearl was one of the most prestigious private island resorts in the Maldives, with reservations booked years in advance. Then came the moment I had anticipated. "Now," Eleanor continued, her sharp gaze settling on me, "given the exclusivity of this experience, we must ensure the guest list maintains a certain standard." I already knew what she was about to say. "Lisa, dear," she cooed insincerely, "these kinds of trips can be overwhelming for those unfamiliar with high society. Perhaps it would be best if you sat this one out." David's reaction was immediate. "Mother, if Lisa isn't going, then neither am I." Eleanor's pleasant expression tightened. "Don't be absurd, David, the entire family is attending. Your cousins are flying in from Europe, you can't miss this over something so trivial." His sister, Charlotte, chimed in. "David, she's right. Lisa would feel completely out of place. Remember how awkward she looked at the yacht club last summer?" I gently squeezed David's hand. "It's fine," I said softly, "go with your family." Eleanor's triumphant smirk told me she believed she had won. She had no idea that I had been making my own arrangements. 6 months earlier, I had overheard Eleanor talking about securing Royal Pearl Island. Intrigued, I did some research. The resort had been struggling financially, and the owner was discreetly looking for a buyer. Through a network of shell companies, I had quietly purchased not just the resort, but the entire island. I left the existing management in place, knowing this day would come. The following morning, as the Andersons boarded their private jet to the Maldives, I made a single phone call. It was time for the plan to unfold. Eleanor had no idea that her dream vacation was about to turn into an unforgettable lesson. As their jet soared across the sky, I sat in my home office, watching live security feeds from the resort on my laptop. In a matter of hours, they would arrive in paradise, only to realize that paradise now belonged to the woman they had cast aside. I picked up my phone to call the resort manager. It was time for Phase 2. The Andersons touched down at Royal Pearl Island that afternoon, Eleanor leading the way with her signature air of superiority. She strode onto the white sand beach, already imagining how she would boast about this exclusive experience to her elite circle. "Welcome to Royal Pearl Island," the resort manager, James, greeted them, his expression unreadable. "We've been expecting you." Eleanor's face glowed with satisfaction. Everything looked exquisite. "I assume the presidential villa is ready for me," Eleanor said. James glanced at his tablet. "Ah, About that, there's been a slight change in plans. The owner is currently occupying the presidential villa. Eleanor's confident smile faltered for the first time. That's absurd. I personally reserved the entire island. There shouldn't be any other visitors here. The proprietor isn't a guest, Mrs. Anderson. They own this estate and hold the ultimate authority over all reservations. Then who exactly is this owner? I demand to speak with them. Eleanor's voice escalated, drawing the attention of her gathered relatives. James maintained a composed smile. Certainly, if you'll all accompany me to the main pavilion. The owner has provided specific instructions for your arrival. The family was guided to a lavish, open-air pavilion with a panoramic view of the sea. A large screen flickered to life, playing a video. My image appeared, and I observed through the security cameras as Eleanor's expression turned to sheer disbelief. Greetings, Anderson family, my recorded self greeted pleasantly. Welcome to my island. That's right, you heard correctly. I own Royal Pearl Island Resort, along with numerous other luxury properties across the globe. A hushed silence filled the space, broken only by David, Eleanor's guest, who struggled to conceal his knowing smirk. You see, my video continued, while you were busy looking down on me for brewing coffee, assuming I couldn't possibly afford high-end experiences. I was constructing a business empire. That coffee girl you dismissed? She's wealthier than the entire Anderson estate combined. Eleanor collapsed into a chair, her designer handbag slipping to the floor. Charlotte's complexion took on an unpleasant shade of green. Now, regarding your accommodations, the video resumed. Eleanor, you'll be staying in our economy villa, a bit modest for your usual tastes, but as you once put it, some people need to understand their place. The rest of your family may select from our standard rooms. This is preposterous, Eleanor shrieked. I paid for the presidential suite. Your deposit has been refunded, James replied smoothly. The owner's decision is absolute. The video message continued. Oh, and Eleanor, remember when you claimed that high-end resorts might be overwhelming for someone of my background? Let's put that theory to the test. You'll be working as a server at the beachside bar throughout your stay. Consider it a lesson in humility. Eleanor's face twisted in fury. I refuse. Do you have any idea who I am? Yes, James answered coolly. You're the mother-in-law of our esteemed owner, who has given explicit instructions. If you decline, you're free to leave, though the next available flight isn't for another 3 days. The aftermath was chaos. Eleanor threatened lawsuits, demanded access to her phone, which mysteriously had no signal, and even attempted to charter a private helicopter. All options were unavailable, per my directives. For the next 2 weeks, the once mighty Eleanor Anderson served drinks to her own family, clad in the very staff uniform she had previously belittled. With every cocktail she delivered, her name tag gleamed under the sun. Eleanor, trainee. But this isn't just a tale of retribution. On their final day, I arrived on the island. Eleanor was at the beach bar, her high-end wardrobe replaced by the simple staff attire, her perfectly maintained appearance undone by the tropical heat. Enjoy yourself? I asked, settling into a bar stool. She met my gaze, her usual fire replaced with weariness. Why did you do this? Because you needed to learn that someone's value isn't measured by their background or bank account, I replied. Every person who serves a drink, cleans a room, or prepares a meal deserves respect. Tears welled in her eyes. I never considered that. I know, I said gently, and that was the issue. From that moment on, Eleanor Anderson was a different woman. Walking in another's shoes, quite literally, shifted her entire perspective. She went on to establish a foundation dedicated to providing educational scholarships for service industry workers. And yes, she finally understood the importance of treating people with dignity, regardless of their profession. Now, our family gatherings feel different. Eleanor engages the serving staff in conversations, asks about their dreams, and remembers their names. Last Christmas, she even insisted on serving dinner herself, claiming it kept her grounded. The Royal Pearl Resort is still under my ownership, but now it features a unique initiative where privileged individuals experience working in service roles. Eleanor plays an active part in it, sharing her story as a cautionary lesson about arrogance and entitlement. As for David and me, we still cherish our morning coffee at the same cafe where we first met. Occasionally, Eleanor joins us, chatting warmly with the baristas she once ignored. She's learned that real character isn't about how you treat your peers, it's about how you treat those you once thought beneath you. Just last week, she surprised me with a handmade photo album filled with snapshots from that unforgettable vacation. On the final page, she had written, Thank you for teaching me that the best view of life comes from stepping down from one's pedestal. That album sits on my desk at the resort, a constant reminder that the most valuable luxury isn't fine linens or private jets. It's the ability to recognize the worth in every person you encounter. And Eleanor? She still works one shift a month at the beach bar. She says it keeps her humble. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay amazed.